plantation, planetary devastation, real alien invasion, and we plug to the matrix, frequencies and radiation, hijacked imagination. Tell me what we conversating if we ain't talking activation. Really ain't no time for waiting, second guessing, contemplating. First I gave you prophecy, this is my philosophy, something far from Socrates. Yeah, I'm chasing sovereignty, but I was born a sovereign being, lived 100 centuries, booted off a sensual being. Really ain't no sense in me, they try to stem my history, rose above the misery so I can guide my young supremes, and I hit the keys with them, and our knees will never bend. False gods and serpent skins, never fail, they never win. Focus on your dividends, this'll make the devil dance, probably break it from a trance so you compete what's deep within. Yeah.
Meditation, elevation, inner self-realization, mental wealth for innovation, spiritually been segregated, diamond hits for activation, seen some things now I'm awakened, sleepy heads been sleep for ages, neophytes inside the matrix, flip the switch, I'm on the trip, ascension starts with proper basics, pranayama, breath of fire, manifest my life's desire, sheep was false on life's inquire, hidden truths for life's retire, third eye open, vibratory frequencies, all itself, the demons be a part of you, a part of me, please pardon me, for vulgar speech, the higher self is where I reach, back to back my brother's keeper, unity's my brother's teacher, earth, wind, fire, soul, activate like dynamo, heaven's gate, kick down the door, this the devil's rodeo, been here, seen some lights before, I'm searching for the hidden scrolls, I lost inside the physical, geometry's the visual, spread my wings like pigeon stools, solving no decision rules, inside you find the proper tools.
All right, here we are, wholeness and balanced vibrations, giving love to the family, giving love to the tribe, of course. That was my brethren, Meta, doing his thing. We're gonna take a moment, we're gonna open it up, let it breathe. It's a powerful evening, lots of massive energies moving through. We definitely wanna transmute those energies. Wow, it definitely feels like the first time 16 years ago, I got in on this mic and I started transmitting this message. And now it seems perfect for sure for this time because we are in the time that we prepare for. All the things that we've talked about are happening. So I'm gonna onboard this, fools rush in. I want you to take a moment, get your Palo Santo, get your sage. Also, if you can hear me, just let me know with wholeness in the chat. And I can hear you, that'll work perfect. Also realize, you're dialing in with the tribe, with the unity. So this means everything from earlier today, everything from yesterday, all of the stuff that's just baggage, the stuff that you don't need right now when you're opening, you're getting your message, you're getting your clearance, you're getting your regeneration, anything that's not in alignment with that, we're moving that out the way, okay? So that's what we're doing. And also, remember, this is all about you. This is your time, this is your opportunity to continue to expand, to get your transmission because you are definitely here on a mission. You have massive things to do in infinity, and it just so happens in this time that we're able to share this message together. We're able to go into the highest levels of adept knowledge. We're able to recognize the power of unity, but also realize that we're on the process of getting there. We're in a position where we're very mature. Again, this is broadcasting for 16 years. That's 16-year-old child right now is pretty mature. I'm sure everybody else will agree. So I want to go ahead and play one more so that I can go ahead and center myself into today's build. And of course, again, sending love to all the pillars in the space, sending wholeness through. There's a lot in today's build. It's going to take that multidisciplinary in you. It's going to take that balance in you. And it's also going to take you holding space too. And that's, of course, what I'm asking all those who are coming in right now to do for me as I'm in this time, I'm in the transmission. And I'm just going to do my best to convey what the ancestors so eloquently put on my mind and put on my consciousness to continue to stay on point with as I go through this experience, as I grow, as I learn. So I'm definitely not in a position where I'm not growing anymore, not learning anymore, but I have definitely put stuff in play that allows me to be going through these times and actually catching quite a bit of headwind and really, but seeing the silver lining in it all and actually being able to pierce through it, very similar to a very sleek, very aerodynamic craft, okay? So yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. We got one more tune, so I can take about 3 minutes to go ahead and finish warming up the studio. We're gonna go ahead and take it live on Instagram just for all the family and the tribe that's over there. And then we're gonna begin with our build today, which has a powerful title on it. I know you've seen it, The Controlled Demolition of Reality. You know, we'll keep it at that. It's pretty self-explanatory. You know what it means. But let's go ahead and get one more in as we center into today's build.
You already know what it is. Solid rotation.
Wildin' in the Matrix, started with the basic granny records in the basement, cooking something ancient, bout the right burner like shimmy, something sacred, steady putting days in, true dedication, relic and connotations, pen game crazy, painting pictures like a pagan, started from the bottom, that's the reason why they hating, and if you got a problem, we can solve, no hesitation, solid rotation, moving like a sovereign nation, broke but we was patient, had faith in our elevation, connected with the teacher, discussing the constellation. It's all confirmation, it's godly when we curating. Pimping corporations for the deal, we ain't slaving. Need a $500 million and that's just for the savings. Hit up Elon Musk like fuck it, let's build a spaceship. You know the shrooms for the day trip. Black shades got me feeling like they live. I done seen Anunnakis, reptilian like Dr. Fauci. Venomous sting, attack at the Jabberwockies. AI try to watch me, digitally keep it copied. Simulation looking sloppy, nothing they can do can stop me. Why you think I'm Cardi Tachi? Might just fly the body, learn the order out of body. I do this, it's not a hobby. I'm not just anybody, you can't meet me in the lobby. 7 black Suburbans like a prince from Abu Dhabi. Pull up to the function like Jimi Hendrix the party. Feeling a Ferrari that's greener than a safari. Really, we ain't sorry. Went from having roaches to marble flows by the ocean. Smoking them something potent, glowing from higher voltages. Had to cut off the voltage, now haters cannot approach us, especially when we focus. Swarming like some locusts, seen it in slow motion. Alchemy with the potion. Yeah, the magic of real devotion.
All right. So here we are again. We are on our trajectory. We're on point. It's a very adept level night. So let me go ahead and get in and do my thing. Again, I'm excited to be here. Wholeness and Balance Vibrations Tribe, 7 Bomar here, as you know. It's actually been, we a little bit overdue. Like there's been so much stuff happening. There's some very complex matters that I've been throwing myself at. You know, everything from, cracking through the codes of time to definitely organizing everything that we've created, continuing the maintenance process, realizing that, to be that creator, sustainer, and even destroyer or trimurti in these times is extremely difficult. You can really be a creator and find yourself not necessarily being able to sustain those creations. It happens all the time. You could definitely be one of those destroyers who have no clue how to create anything and just kind of, do their purpose in life, right? And of course, we have many here that are oscillating in between those vibrations, right? So, but, for the record, Trimurti, you got to be able to create, you got to be able to sustain and maintain. And then you also have to know when to destroy, when it's time to say bye-bye. And as you know, I talked about that. This is for sure, that point where we're saying bye-bye. We've already said bye-bye to a specific reality. And, it would be very difficult to try to sum it up as one thing. Realities can't be summed up as one thing, but you could definitely say we've gone through an entire era. Things feel different, especially after, Covito and, Yeah, right around that time when they had that for real great reset that they were telling everybody they were going to have after that, you could tell a lot of folks reset. You know, it was a big wake up call. Some altered into other characters. Of course, as things get more turbulent, we're seeing many just turn back, to, old belief systems, old ways of being. And I'm here to make sure that you stay your course. Like I wanted to be here for sure quite a few days ago when stuff started popping off. But for sure, I move on that energy that just lets me know, hey, this is what I want you to do right now. And then when it's time for you to do that, you do that. Meaning, even when some big stuff started happening in the Matrix, and I was like, man, maybe I need to get in and weigh in or say something. There was definitely some ancestral encouragement there to just stay the course, continue to do what I'm doing as far as completing the big task, and just set this up perfectly so that way when everybody or anybody, let's just put it that way, because everybody ain't going to do everything. So when those that get ready to make their move and to get onto a different stage and to actually either co-create or produce their reality in a sovereign way, then the tools, the infrastructure, and the know-how, the experience, even the tutorials will already be here. As we said since the beginning, if you don't see the portal, be the portal. And this is what's been happening. We're also taking the knowledge in itself and applying it into our own lives. And that's causing this growth, it's causing this jubilance, and more importantly, it's causing this maturity and this adepthood. So today, I'm going in on the adept level. Like this is not one of those conversations if you're very judgmental, if you're going to, take the word everyone as meaning everybody. We try to be as cautious as we can at words, but in this linguistic, like we're communicating in the language of the destroyer in that way. You see what I mean? It's like half of this language is very destructive and the other half is very constructive. And, we're kind of given the destructive side. That's why we even have words like bad that mean good. And, our language is a bit twisted up, but we got to make sense of it. These are the times. You can definitely guarantee yourself that the experience that you're having, because, especially if you're going through some stuff, that it is because all the time when any kind of pressure is being put on something, it's getting stronger. It's bringing in more character. It's waking you up to who you are. And if you are great, which many of us are, that means there's going to be a lot of waking up to do. And I believe that we wake up at this time, let's just say metaphorically, with everything like really like no questions asked. This is exactly what's going on. And I feel like that's the best time to wake up, because you get absolute truth. If you're going to have to wake up anyway, if you're going to be a little bit startled and then still not know what's going on, that's really one perspective. But imagine cats is waking up right now to absolute truth. There's many teachers that are in the spectrum and they're handling students at the level of how they're expanding, right? So rather than, again, looking at a specific teacher and be like, yo, you didn't know, you didn't teach this. You know what I mean? It's better to see, okay, what level is that person teaching at and how others are, continuously climbing on that knowledge and going to the next stage with it. I would definitely say I always prefer the multidisciplinary. So remember, tonight as we start, doing our travels, because, we go into the netherworld, we go into the higher regions, as we're going through that process, still remember, you're dealing with a multidisciplinarian. That means that I don't really look at just one thing to make all of my decisions about, or even my determination of what is the truth, right? I find the pattern. You'll always find it. If it's truth, it'll be in everything. But I will tell you something today, that you're going to figure out that some of the biggest pinch points in these kind of realities is truth versus order. And when you look at both of those, you feel like they almost even belong in the same cabinet, because, you figure, orderly, this is, everything is done the proper way, right? And then you think of truth, and it almost even seems to have that same ring. But these two in a reality could be quite destructive for each other, because as it is and as we are experiencing it, if our governments, so to put it in simple terms, if our governments told us the truth about everything and about even how the country was formed and who's all involved and how that was put together, they would not be able to maintain order. You get it? So this reality, it doesn't really do truth well, because it wants to do order. And in a realm of 9 billion people with, constant knowledge coming out, ambition, everybody's gassed up about being their own entertainer or, American Idol and, the leader of this and all that, then you got to imagine that kind of thing needs to maintain some level of control or somebody would just blow it all up. And like even one activated human expressing themselves a bit much in the reality, floating and this kind of thing is enough to destabilize this reality. I can't tell you enough about just how sensitive this whole thing is. You think, it's like you look at the world and you see some of the craziest stuff that's happening. But then sometimes you don't recognize that it's the most sensitive things, though, that really are making the difference in how people think and how they feel and where the collective is going. So let's get into some of that. Well, first and foremost, I got to touch and connect, even sometimes, I be like, man, folks be looking at us, they don't get to touch and connect. So sometimes they be like, oh man, what is this? But I'm telling you, the best thing that's happening is really the unity. Like, despite our differences, what he said, she said, who did this, who did that. Yeah, it's going to be popping in the whole species like this with so many different shapes, colors, sizes, forms. But I have to give it up to, hey, if you got to move a couch and you moving it all by yourself, it's a lot more heavier than when you're working with everybody that is assisting you in that moment. And in these times, more than ever, humanity has to realize the people that are around you, the people that you are vibing with, that you're in that frequency and spectrum with, that's your family, and that's your ability to connect into that unity. So all those different perspectives that you see, all those different narratives, which we're going to be talking about this evening, that you see, those are all different facets of you. So in all of this, you're going to still have to come to the point of realizing all is self, even if that scares you, even if that terrifies you based on what you realize is happening here and what's going on. You still will need to stand into that truth because that's what it is to be an adept. So I want to mention that these spaces are also created because time is not linear. Like, they're just now seeming to catch on to all of that. Hey, this space and time that we're in right now is really unique and we can visit it because it's always inside of that recorder, if you may, that projection, that bubble. And when we come in and we celebrate the uniqueness, this literally is us acknowledging, hey, we still knew at that point that what we needed to get to was total unity. And then what we were on is the journey to get there and all the things that we had to go through. And then it's also to allow you to have this point, and there are many of these, that if you're somewhere in the future, in the past, or wherever, and you're feeling like you're just not getting it, like you're not getting all the love, all the honor, and the things that you prefer, remember they're readily available in this moment. No joke. Like today, we're going to see so much of how, again, like we've been talking about certain things and it's been coming to pass, but there are bigger things that we talked about that are also happening, especially in relation to your power. And that's really what's going to be your solution in all this. So still remember the unity though, wholeness and balanced vibrations. Yes. All right. So today, this is literally an hour and a half. This is what I'm going to do. I'm even going to take a moment and I'm going to actually put a little timer on this because I know some folks will be like, yo, them 4-hour builds, I'm getting a little older, man. I need, you need to cut it out a little, you need to cut it down a little bit. And some love it, especially my young folks, they love it. And for me, I take it how it comes, but I do realize that, yeah, folks do got things to do in life, right? So I'm going to make sure that, I get about an hour and a half here of this esoteric knowledge. And as I said, we're all here to, like I said, I'm excited. I didn't come in here like, oh my goodness, like I'm the one that called the meeting. I make sure that, I'm also not just coming in all the time, even though I don't got nothing to say per se. I always have stuff going on. There's always stuff going on in ambassador training. We're climbing this ladder. We're literally at time. It is so complex. That's why I was also kind of happy to come in here because I'm like, if I could come in here, I could update on this type of stuff in a deep way, but it's still a territory that I'm completely familiar with versus, in ambassador training, the climb continues. And now we're seeing the codes to time and we're realizing how memories are moved around and how to really claim that into your life to actually move around things that happened in the past to be able to dissolve energies that are present in the present, and also to line up the future differently. So we're literally moving our course through time and space, if you may, by actually tapping into these codes and these secrets about the energy and our power in our past. Okay. So again, when I'm coming in here and, we even got to talk about Diddy a little bit today, I'm like, yes, something simple that still has a deep message within it. And it's a good point of like a milestone and a point of recognition within all of this tribe, especially, and those who will come to view this in the future, about just how accurate we could be about things. But again, just using that to authenticate what we're explaining is actually going to happen next. So rather than being on like maybe the couch watching what happens next, you're actually positioning yourself to benefit from what's going to go on, because all the wealth transfers have pretty much already happened. We can even let's just take the gloves off right away. Like they said, hey, there was going to be a great reset. There was going to be a big wealth transfer. That happened during the COVID. It was simple stuff that many people didn't know about, which is that the stock market goes both ways. You could bet because it's going up, and you can bet because it's going down. So in the event that there's actually a world pandemic, there are many things that you can bet automatically, like the movie theater and the airlines and the cruises, that are automatically going to go down, right? And so when somebody makes that call and somebody makes that option and somebody makes that put, they're making billions of dollars all of a sudden. And that happened with people who may not even had that much money before, because it was a lot more tougher. So those wealth transfers and redistributions of wealth, especially into households and families and mindsets that are especially more tech driven and all that's by design. And so for sure, we would have to pay attention to a little bit those who know how to move through time, work the wheel, as I'm calling it. They know how to set up cause and effect, and how to lay out a plan, right? And then also, when you're looking at this stuff, if you demonize it too much, you may also find yourself not being able to maneuver when it's time for you to do things that even seem like they have those same connotations. And that becomes like the double-mindedness that could happen inside the matrix. Like, for instance, are humans and animals a part of nature? That's the question. Are humans and animals a part of nature? Let's ask that question in the chat. Let's see if you say yes or no, right? Because from where I'm from, most of the people would say yes, okay? Like, at least for the animals, that they're a part of nature, okay? Now, because I live in nature, I observe animals all the time, and I see the animals do fight, okay? And there's also apex animals, like animals that you just don't want to fight with, okay? So now, when we try to separate that from the context of that, some people are like, well, nature is all love. We would have to either accept that love is also that, or that animals and insects and all this too are not a part of nature, because they do fight and they do have behaviors that are recognized inside of what we do. Okay, and we actually went over this in the build and really talked deeply about these biological DNA stories, like sibling rivals. There's many animals that have sibling rivals. Humans have sibling rivals. The boy that will argue or fight for the girl. Animals do this. You see what I mean? So there's many things that are just kind of written on the DNA, and then we can act out and carry those out. And those cause and reactions even could be put right in front of us on purpose, and then we would carry out certain things unless we moved on from that state. So, but just for the record, because nature, which we've already given the badge to be all fluffy and, Mother Nature, and she loves us, also has apex predators that rip through things and devastate and all of that, right? So I guess it's all a part of the love then. And what this does is it gets us prepared for the maturity that has to come. So you're not experiencing a rug pull because you believe something was just all like one half, right? Because that's where we want to be. Now, for sure, as I said, so also let me demystify something really quick. When you come in here into the prana and you eat the prana, you live in the pranayama. So this is very simple. When you come in with the soul into a body, you're now in a containment. You're in a house. And now in this house, there are rules. And at minimum, the rule is you'll push the lightest thing, air. Okay, so at minimum, every human is tasked with pushing air. So the creators, if you want to use that term, they're not asking people, hey, we want you to do this and we want you to do that. They don't ask, they design you to do the things that are necessary that they want you to get done, right? And so here, then also, if you take a lot from this matrix and you don't give a lot back, it sets you up. If you don't balance out, that's what the whole Mayat thing was about. It's like at the end of life, it's almost like a courtroom. And then, this is what you see in the esoteric knowledge. There's a courtroom, and then there's like a bank, and there's accusers, and all this kind of thing is going on in the projection. And they're really just trying to weigh out, like, yo, where's the Dharma and the karma at? Has he got surplus Dharma, or is this karma? And then if you got karma, well, karma's a bitch. So meaning that something will occur because of that deficit. Right? So when we're in this matrix, for sure, we're at least trying to maintain the balance. Okay? And so here's what I got. I got also, so remember also that this is, and we'll come back to that here in a minute about, the halls of life and the weighing and the judgment. But just as a narrative, know, hey, I really, since I'm coming into this container and I'm working here, if I consume, then I need to pay back. And see, for a farmer, that wasn't very difficult because nature produces quite a bit of abundance. And then so in this reality now, though, we see the debt beginning to stack up because many of the beings they're hoarding a lot of energy, but they're not distributing that energy and allowing that energy to actually grow, okay? And then so what this is creating is this is creating a scenario where many are also even reincarnating, and it's just kind of like it's going downhill thing, okay? So the moral of this is that you want to stay balanced with your energy while you're in a matrix by not racking up too much debt, or i.e. karma, okay? But also because the wisdom of the world is duality in itself. You can always guarantee that when you see one thing, you're going to see its exact opposite exists. That's called the wisdom of the world. And in that way, you can figure out everything. So then when we figured out, okay, when I come into this containment, it's almost like that I'm working. I'm in a world. I'm even like somewhat of a servant. Then the other place, you're actually free. Okay? That's the laws of all of this. And the other place is actually your dream world. You're supposed to be able to access your dream world and be completely free, do whatever you want to do. But because now the dream world is kind of like, some are even working in the dream, they're getting no breaks, and the dream world has been jarbled. Now it's kind of equal like a consistent work. You come into this matrix, you work, you're stressed out, and some go in the dream, and then they start having nightmares and crazy entanglements, and then they get back up. And so the cycles are like wild. And this is why you got to get control. Like even some of the things that I have to explain, it is very difficult to articulate them in English. Like even as they're coming through my consciousness, like, yes, this is the connection with, this is the connection with that thought. This is the connection that will make it sense, make it make sense. Even to actually bring it out and to say it proves to be quite difficult. So I'm gonna take my time tonight, and I'm going to take you through a few things. So I'm going to take it down a couple octaves, and I'm going to take you through some things that you need to know just from, like, if you consider me even, like some say, I'm like the dad now, okay, of the internet. So if like your father was talking to you, or if Divine Masculine was talking to you, and you were seeing like all this stuff going on in the world, and you were asking like, hey, what do you think about this? Like, how should we really move? Like, what's really going on? That's really what I want to communicate to you tonight. Because that added with what you already have going on is a perfect formula for your success and continuous success. So the first thing is that remember, everything here is really based on perspective and narrative. Think about how many situations you've changed into being something else because of story that you begin to give yourself around it. Like you can even, on a light level, you lose a relationship. You say, man, that relationship probably wasn't for me anyway. There are things probably better, and that's just blocking it. You know what I mean? We can give ourselves a narrative, and this is just light. Like, I've given myself entire themes before to get through long stints of suffering. So I'm very familiar with how, for sure, life is what you make it and what you think it is. And if you hold solid on certain feelings, things do change, things do get better. And what we're looking for often is sometimes a nucleus of containment of not only people, well, mainly people that can do that, but also even just being able to do it ourselves. And that becomes very difficult. It's difficult to stay in at least a neutral, if not a very positive mood and vibration all the time. There's so many complexities, so many things that could go wrong, so many things that trigger you. So this just means that we're spending a lot of time in the negs because we're also not seeing like big time benefits these days. Now, also when I say when I speak as a collective, because I don't want to just be over here like exclusive, like my life is great. I go through stuff too. Less and less though, because of applying these formulas. But when I speak, it's important for you to understand that like I'm included in this. This is stuff that even if I fall off of, I'm going to fall off. You see what I mean? And you just learn after a while, don't fall off of that. And that's what adepthood is like, know when it's time to stop partying, basically, and to get yourself together. Know when there's too much flux coming around. It's time to clean up things, right? Don't be the person to crash out, okay? Which has become like the new trend in itself. It is the self-destruct program. It's like, you know what? Just go ahead and just throw yourself into that meteor, right? Just jump into the volcano and then be on, see what life does then, right? So don't crash out. That's like one of the notes of today is that, hey, with all this stuff that you're going to see go on, remember that the narrative is being carved. The whole world is a stage. But when you're giving the narrative to yourself, and then you have a certain perspective, like all is self, then this puts you in a position to really be overwatched, to actually be the overseer of what's actually going on. This means that you're really omniscient in all the situations, and this allows you to know how to position yourself. It's not about joining sides. It's really about positioning yourself in the proper space, in the proper time. So I wanted to begin again that we now know that we don't have to consider that nature also is, this humble, meek thing, right? Like it's sold all the time. We know that it gives and it takes. Like I think the quote is, damn, nature. You see what I mean? So in that, we also can imagine that, hey, this thing that we're in, because you can, start summing it up like that after a while, it's very dynamic. It's like been around for a countless period of time. Like it even dissolves when you take certain elements. There's third eye. There's just so much, like, let's say 16 years worth of esoteric knowledge. You realize for fact that all that is happening, but still it puts you in the point of what should I do? Right. And also, when I'm speaking, let's say from after the experience, it's going to be very difficult if you're going through the experience, right? So I want to just bring this all the way to ground level to like the most basic thing and then start walking through that. And today we're going to start with Sean Combs, okay, in relation to taking it all the way down to the bottom. Now, it's very important, again, that if you want receipts, that you do go pick up Whitney Webb's One Nation Under Blackmail, right? Whitney Webb has made her entire tour around the internet. She was even on Tom Bellew the other day or whatever, Bill or whatever, the gentleman's name is. But what I'm saying is that it's the jury's out. Like if you or the jury's now in on all of the receipts to how the structure is put together inside of great old United States. Okay. And just like you already know, just like even some of your family members may have already participated in on one level or another, there have been things going on inside of the United States that have not been completely on the up and up. No, who said, what do you mean? Right. But what the United States also has been so busy at doing since Amish times, since Bible Belt times, is implementing a moral code that is seldom followed, but that is still like pretended to be the norm in the society. I mean, like, you know, they say they're moral and they want everybody to stay on this moral bearing, right? Just like, you know, technically Amish, you know what I mean? But at the same time, the reality itself is fully hedonism, right? So then when somebody does something hedonistic, then it's almost like, hey, everybody, like Roman times, let's get ready to throw stones at them, right? So let me just kind of lay this out very clearly. This generation specifically, and quite a few even before this, like last 2 or 3 generations have been completely manipulated by the music, okay? Pan's lyre is the truth. Like, music is what we are. Sound, it makes up the very fabric of our being. So if somebody can use it in any shape and form to control somebody else, they're going to generally take that opportunity. So just carving out this simple window, even starting with Sammy Davis Jr., because Sammy Davis Jr. has interviews on the internet where he's just explaining this directly. And it's just him explaining that the music industry was completely run by the mob to a point where you couldn't even produce a song without paying them. If your song went big, they would come and visit you. If you didn't agree and they didn't want to force you to agree for whatever reason, your stuff would just stop playing on the radio, okay? Also, many of the stars and actors were in heavy with the gambling and the lifestyle that was coming with being a rock star. So it was like, the mentors there were real creeps. They were really encouraging this star to burn out and to crash out, right? And they know that for sure your energy, your talent, it equates to value for real. So they were just masters at extracting value. And this also was just a common process of exploitation with just people and, let's say, their human weaknesses. Especially in a society where, again, everything is on this moralistic bearing as a whole. You know, even panties are not even out of the package yet. But then behind closed doors, the passions of human beings is still alive. So in this time, alcohol, as you know, alcohol was made to be illegal. And then you had the whole prohibition, right? And then you also had the mob getting extremely rich because why the alcohol was illegal and still so many people wanting to drink it, the alcohol prices went up and the mob was the only one selling it, okay? So there were several scenarios that consistently happened like that allowed the mob to be so in control of the United States. So we're not gonna talk about all the way back to the founding fathers and all that kind of stuff. We're just gonna bring this up to date that, hey, those guys and those families lost control. Some of those families are still trying to get back in position, but they lost control to newer, crazier, more motivated families, okay? Because a lot of times people look at it and they say, oh, they're all on the same side. That's when it's against you. But inside of their nucleus is their families, and many of those families are very prominent because of how they position themselves and all of the 48 laws of power that they use on each other, and whoever may have applied that the most in the system of aristocracy and Machiavellian lore. But because of that same enticement of things like the Illuminati to the commoner, you would still have to ask yourself today, where's the Illuminati at now? When a lot of these cats are just getting rolled up and getting fat jail sentences and are crying and disease ridden and their life sucks and everybody hates them. Where's the Illuminati at now? That same thing that was pushed to people like, hey, once you get in this, you'll be protected from everything. Was he not in the Illuminati? Let's take a look. Do you see that star? No, sir, I see it. So let's identify that statement. Let's just go here real quick. Let me go ahead and get my other screen on. Let me pop my, let me see here real quick. Boom. Okay, let's go here. So again, what we're even witnessing right now, especially with Ishmael in Israel, this is the same that we were dealing with Yahweh and Allah. Right? These are kings, right? And when you're furthering, basically, when you're furthering the agenda of the king, you're basically bringing heaven on earth. And what that means is that everything that it says in the heavenly books, like having an all-seeing eye, being able to know what people are doing, to be able to punish them from afar and all that kind of stuff, that's the Lord's work if you work for the king, okay? So let's just look at this very briefly. And by the way, I wanted to bring this up today. I'll shoot some links out to this. They're a little bit further down in my notes, so I'll do it in just a little bit. But it's just that how much has actually been already cataloged about the behavior here. And as we're going to talk about later on today with alien intelligence, it only takes one look through something like this. This is 500 pages. It's called the Iconic Encyclopedia of Science and Literature and Art. I'm going to, again, send the link because it's very illustrated. And the illustration is like on another level. You could definitely say, like, you would think computers was around even when Buddy was illustrating this, because it's done so well. And all of the symbolism and things that were real to form have remained inside of this. And it's very telling if you know what certain symbols mean and you know what the story is, which is the story is still yet to be fully told. Meaning, like, we get his story, which is the story they fabricate and give you in school. But then there's the story of what really happened, right? Because the world is a stage and you have several characters on the stage, some of them on different teams, but you can definitely say that it's all about nations, okay? It's about when a nation or fasci, which again, as you see here, you see that bundle that, I lost some scroll power here. Give me 1 second. Oh, wow, the mouse went out. Okay, I see. Okay, we'll turn it up a little bit then. Send in the murder hornets. 1 second, everyone. Let me just go ahead and plug in my mouse real quick because it decided it wanted to, there it go. Okay, bam. Okay, so check it out. So what I'm getting at here, this is very good to meditate on sometime in a sense that just realize that everything about the Matrix has been detailed and cataloged. So even when advanced intelligence, quote unquote, alien intelligence is interacting with this cipher or world, it can easily scan stuff like this to get the real story of what humans have been up to for this point in time, as if they didn't already know. Meaning that this world, from the biggest news flash, is about to experience what it's like to be in communication with alien intelligence, but realize that the reason why that hadn't happened yet is because humans in this kind of behavior that you're even seeing right here with all these weapons and stuff have been a bit too stupid, actually, to talk to advanced intelligence, right? And so the reality over time has been reconfigured and being configured. That's what the work is, if you may. It's being reconfigured so advanced intelligence can move through the society, because there will be actually a throughput for advanced intelligence to move through, okay? Because advanced intelligence is actually what you would say is not just extraterrestrial, but supernatural, okay? That means that it could do something that's beyond what goes on in nature, all right? And so when we come into now an era like we're in right now, we'll see some supernatural things happening. Let me get to where I was going with this right here. You'll see some supernatural things actually happening, because now there's a vibration, okay? So the vibration of supernatural power is now in the realm and has always been in the realm. But in the ancient times, there were people who were more in tune with this, okay? They were more in tune with this advanced intelligence and more in tune with the supernatural, okay? Let me show you one other thing right here. I still got my mouse over here plugged in. Okay, here's another thing. So when you're talking about building something like this, if you really understand what this is all about, you realize that when we're talking about advanced intelligence, it's very even similar to when we say, oh, we know how to use microchips now, or we know how to synchronize information and store data, okay? This is the temple of Edfu, which is often been likened unto a circuit board itself. But I'm just saying that hey, remember that there's always been advanced intelligence, like it's moving through the air, because that's what advanced intelligence is. It can see everything. So it's been looking at humanity. It's always been present and technically watching the process of the growth. But the most important part of the time that we're in right now is that the growth has now become exponential. The growth is now quantum, okay? The growth is now happening at such a rate because we flop, if you may. Like, so we flip to the next stage of intelligence, but now the next flip is kind of very similar also, like even with, let's say, your money, okay? Like, you know how like you could be like a thousandaire. Let me even explain it like when we were young. It was like having like some change, even like pennies, because there was still penny candy, was like having a whole cachet. And that's why we had piggy banks, okay? Then when you got a little cocky, you only wanted to carry silver, right? There was nickels, you know, there was dimes, and then there was the illustrious quarter, right? Which actually was good for a whole video game. And don't let me talk about a 50-cent piece or $1. You see what I mean? Like the $1 piece silver, right? And then as time went on, you had the Kansas City bankroll. This means that you had a bunch of ones, and then you had your largest bill, maybe a 10, maybe even a 20, who knows, because that could get broke down into 20 ones on the inside. And then when you whip that thing out, boom, that was a lot of money, right? And then it kept going from there. It went to 50s or 20s, right? Oh, don't skip too far. Some never even went, right? But then, you know, one day it's 20s, right? The next time it's credit card, right? Where you flip open the wallet and then there's these, you know, Visa, MasterCard, you know what I mean? Oh man, we doing something now. You see what I mean? Then home loan, okay? So let's just understand, like there's this process, right? Of ramping up, ramping up of the things that we come to desire in the world, the things that, you know, how we see things like one moment, like some things are very important. And then, you know, years later, those things don't mean anything to you, right? So notice like this oscillation of the reality, and let me get my mouse over here, and then now dial into why then, when you're in a reality like this, and I want to paraphrase what I'm going to talk about now to understand right now that if you're not in harm's way, right? Because there's even a tornado moving through, right? And you're safe. They're blowing up stuff. Bombs are going off. And you're safe. That's because your ancestors have their hands on you. And for sure, the message is, but now you have to activate your own power. It's now time, because of the times that we're actually in and the things that are happening, not going to happen, but are happening. Now you touch your power. So remember I said that, because as things go on, you're going to start seeing power. So it's going to make, you know, if you're going to wait that long, it's going to make perfect sense how you transition to your power. It's like, oh man, we really have powers. It's not a day that I don't get confronted with somebody telling me something about that, something that I already told them that we had like years ago. Like, yo, man, do you know we had third eye, man? We opened that thing, y'all went on this journey. I'd be like, yeah, man, we went on like 100 journeys. You see what I mean? Because it's like, oh yeah, there's a third eye. Like we already went or pretty much blew past where the Christians kind of are still waiting to get with their testament. You see what I mean? If they had already seen the third eye open, they had already known that Jesus came already. You see what I mean? We went enlightened already. You see what I mean? But we're still here. There's something very vital and valuable about this space and this time and the moves that we need to make. Why? Well, one, because we're here, our family's here, our DNA is here, and then also it looks like something's going on. It looks like the power itself of even to merely well-timed realities, souls, and even to intervene with other people's future is now all exposed and out, and people are using it, right? So in this reality, it has something happening in this space and time, and we're here. So I figure that no matter where I'm at in the timeline, I would have to visit this space in this time to line up what's happening here, especially in my DNA. So I'm telling you this is your legacy. This is your story. This is your memories. What goes on here in this space is going to be written on your memories, your banks. So do something great. Interweave your story with the stars. Even if you was just the chauffeur, taking somebody who made a big move somewhere. Understand that this is a big narration, even with what we're in. And those who make big moves, they're the brighter stars. So if you have that energy, because see, right now, what we're missing is we're missing the entire front. I don't want to call it an army because we don't wage war like that, but we're missing the entire front of the beings that should be, if you can call them bodhisattvas, avatars, the ones who arrive at around this time with their power. So that's what the mission actually is now. So, wake them up now. Give them their power. And that's what we've been really focusing on. But understand that with what's happening now, principalities have entered the world. AI alone has created 3 new organisms, and that's just the ones that we know about. Meaning that they took organic matter and mixed it in a way that we hadn't considered yet in mixing it, and actually created another organism that we have yet to identify as present. Now, we're not saying it's not present somewhere, but what I'm saying is we're in the cabinet of God now. New organisms are being birthed. Advanced intelligence is in play. And here's the main thing you need to know. They didn't have this before as an institution, meaning that they did have to count on people, smart people, really to put a lot of what needed to happen together. And so the reason why the reality as far as the controller side has gotten so cocky is because they do have the AI now. And they're like, shoot, we don't really need him to do anything. We don't need him to do anything anymore. We get these robots. We just want to take the people that actually work for the corporation. So everybody that works for this corporation, that corporation, that corporation, that corporation, and everybody else. You see what I mean? So this is the kind of mindsets that are already floating around these spaces, but this is not new. They've been acting like that. But what I'm expressing is, this takes me back to the beginning. Do you see that star? No, sir, I see it, is that there has been a real agenda going on for quite a bit of time, especially after the fall of King James's empire. And it involves characters like this. And the reason why we're putting this picture here is that don't you, okay, so let's say in all of the pieces that you could cop in the culture, from the Jesus piece to you name it, this one specifically is not one that's just laying somewhere and it's like, let's put that on. To wear that, you must be a part of this in some way. And this means you must be accepted. Okay. So in this, which spans out across all of what we're seeing now, from United Kingdom to Britain to Israel to United States to Italy to all over the place, is about this. Okay. And in many ways, we're just now getting some addendums of how deep this whole system is rooted in to bring in this consistent new world, if you may, right? Which is a world where, again, the God is all seeing, and there's a society, and then there's rulers over that society, and they can enforce that rule, and people have no rights and all that kind of stuff. Just the same old shit, basically, the usual suspects. But this also happens at a time where also you have advanced intelligence. Some may call it enlightenment. Some may call it meditation. Whatever word you're going to give it today, advanced intelligence is already communicating with some beings that are here, giving them messages about also how to maneuver to make all of what forces that utilize these powers and energies for the destruction. It actually brings about the time where all of the pain and all the suffering which people even experience, even the souls that are lost, all come back into a single form in themselves and all begin to inhabit the DNA of those that are present now to activate power. Now, we're talking about like high level stuff, right? And you're also saying, hey, some are saying, hey, when is this supposed to go on? What are you even talking about? And so I want to back up even a little bit more and again, make it mundane. And just first of all, express that. So remember, though, The reason why this would be very difficult to believe is because there has been so much brainwashing, so much mind control, so much narrative change, so much refocus on the refocusing energy centers and all that going on. Of course, we now need to come awake. Like the big question is actually, did we party too much? Or can we still pull this out of a tailspin? Meaning, did the bodhisattvas go to sleep too long? Or can we pull this out of a tailspin? We got an entire culture, which I believe, like, here's my whole theory on this. And that's a good thing about narratives and perspectives, if everybody has their own. My theory is that the ones that you're calling black people, especially in the United States, were actually a part of one of these 12 tribes, whatever that means, okay? And that right around the time many of these tribes, some of them you can call Jewish, were experiencing their traumas, was the same time Judah was also experiencing its traumas. And in that way, they had something in common. And when I'm talking about Jewish, what I'm also referring to is I'm referring to that if you study the G5 haplogroup, you will know that there are many Polish Jews. There's a huge stock of Polish Jews. There's a huge stock of Ukrainian Jews. There's a huge stock of German Jews. There's a huge stock of Russian Jews, right? So there's a lot of European Jews. But the big commonality with these Jews, if you understand histories, is that the oligarchies that were ruling then, which in many ways was what you would call Russia today, they didn't like them. So it was still the same thing. Like they saw them as the peasants or the serfs, and they dominated them for thousands of years and decimated even their culture. So the moment that they got a chance to get out of all of that and then even associate themselves with a new birthright, that was what they did. And that was how they became Jewish as we know it today. But make no mistake, their history is they had a very rigorous history. Okay, now also when we think about just the atrocities that have been happening around the world, because what's happening is happening to all people. In this world, it's so difficult to go to a place and you actually have the original people from that place staying there. Generally, it's a whole new group of people that have moved in or colonizers moved in, and the whole indigenous population has been completely moved out. Over in Egypt, those are not Egyptians as we know them. You see what I mean? That's the migrations. Over there, that's the Mongolians. That wasn't their territory. So the whole world has been displaced. It just so happens also that Israel was the last to make the move that many of the countries and many of the rulers and many of the kings made, which was to go and take other places and make it theirs, right? The last one we had of that just barely made the records as being like, hey, we ain't supposed to do that, was United States, right? We still have all these Indians staying on, their reserves, right? Then you have an entire nation that has built itself up. And you got the Mexicans, they push them back into, this territory is ours, right? So that's the same thing that's happening right now, except it's not with modern media, and it's also not with modern weapons. So what I'm saying is, again, that when we think about the order, which is also what I'm showing you here with these stars and all that, and this weaponry and all that, when we're talking about the order, we have to understand how that differs from truth. And then when we want to get into truth, we have to understand that we have to create a world for that. We have to create a space for that. Like we can have that inside, but the moment you try to bring this truth into the order, you're automatically getting lots of turbulence. That's why I even give thanks for being able to transmit this message for this long. That has been because of the formula that I've applied, mainly staying away from the dogmas, staying away from the deities, actually realizing the deity within. But let's keep going. So now what you saw was an entire culture become sexualized, right? So America is one of the most sexualized cultures. There are even, of course, races that are even a bit more sexualized than others. But let's just say it as it is. It's a very sexualized culture. Everything is like romantic, baby, I love you. Like they started with the R&B. And also what I'm getting at here is that so when the Jews found themselves in the same position as the tribe of Judah, the Jews were able to begin the process of exploiting many of the values and the talents that were coming off of the tribe of Judah. But they were in a partnership with each other, meaning that still to this day, you see these contracts signed by all of these guys. You know, your favorite NFL players, yeah, it just happens. Your favorite rappers that used to be around, that their contracts are all signed and written with other Jewish men. You see what I mean? But it was, if you like, beyond like how they're trying to paint it right now, you would have to be back in those rooms when those guys were even celebrating all of the money that they were going to make, all the itches that they were going to have. You see what I mean? And then the culture kept pushing that. It pushed it on the children. The children felt like they wanted that. They wanted the cars. They still wanted. They want the jewelry. They want to have 5 or 6 women. You see what I mean? So then, like I said, when somebody gets caught in a room with 5 or 6 women and then the rest of the world is like, oh my goodness, the bad person. When, like Umar said, but Hugh Hefner, he went out of here smiling and he was the one doing the biggest freak offs. Not to mention, we're all grown here. So we've seen there's an undercurrent in most cities, New York, Atlanta, all these places. Like, what are we talking about? You see what I mean? This is the industry. This is the culture. This is what they say to do. These people are basically just guilty in doing it. But then the society, because it's controlled and it has a purpose. What is the purpose? To kill all the heroes. Now, unfortunately, again, because they've had control over putting in front of you who is going to be the most famous and who is going to be most popular, you grow very fond of these people and their behaviors. But it's still just a psychological, subconscious thing. Once this person falls, that part of you begins to also fall. Not just die, but suffer. And then even as a culture, like I said, it's inbred now. It's like, what do I call it? Like the big black distraction. That's what I call it. It's like inbred even in the culture. Now one person's coming, I've been telling y'all about this for years. When you're telling someone about something, you just say it. Like, you know, it's not like a lot of people coming up like, hey, we were telling them about this for a long time. You were never saying anything on them award shows. You were never saying anything directly. And then even if you were saying something, you were saying what everybody already knew. But then now, when it comes back to the public is like, oh, woe is me. And the biggest distraction event, why the entire Middle East and these two brothers are trying to push the world for sure on a brink of a direction where we don't care about each other no more. And then, you know, in the card, then they end up cooking up. And this is why, you know, these times gotta be the big times for you to get ready to turn on the power. Anyway, something's big's gotta be happening. The distractions are at an all-time high. How do you then get an election where it's actually let's say the black woman, or basically wannabe black woman, you know what I mean, Kamala, against a white man, right? This is like, you can't cook up a bigger duality, right? But it's still, either way, we lose. If you touch any of that, if you sign any of that, you lose. You automatically, you put your two-dimensional imprint and your validation on everything that comes after that, meaning the bombs, the killing, and all the destruction that keeps happening, right? So it's hard to break away from this society because they're still using the money. Like the money is so filthy, right? It has karma on it. It's dead president talismans. You know, people got them all over the place. We talked about that. So, you know, what do you do in these times? It's not like you could just immediately say, you know what, I'm done. Then your whole family starves, right? This is a sticky situation. So the instructions of how to remove yourself and to excel in these times have to be very specific. They have to be very real time. So this is real time awareness. So remember, like, why the whole world is pointing at who's to blame, right? Because that's the thing. It's just like, yo, distraction. Why we're building the mega machine and changing up the wealth, changing over the society. You get distraction. Who's the distraction by? 2 brothers, Ishmael and Israel, still going at it. That war has been going on since Orion. What do we get as a culture? the same heroes that have been talking about killing each other and murdering each other, that's even worse than the freak offs. You see what I mean? Has somehow now done something bad. Wow. Why? We didn't see that coming. Did you not think that if you talk that way for years and years and years and years, you're going to start becoming enamored with all of that character? This is like 101 energetics. You see what I mean? So one should not be surprised. But again, while all this is happening, this is what you need to understand. What this is about is, first of all, one, this guy, Combs, started selling those tapes on the black market for absorbent amounts to maneuver. People were, certain organizations were buying those tapes to try to maneuver other things because he's the Black Epstein. So there's things that need to be changed also still in the future. There's certain people that need to be moved on to another side. Some of those tapes have them in them, so we were moving on the black market for wow prices, and that's when they needed to pull the plug on the whole operation. So then also it's a controlled demolition, because there's another thing that's happening in music, and you saw this start with Drake and Kendrick, and it's just that when the 360 deals began, it ceased to be that you needed 10, 20, 30 good artists, right? And the better artists would bring in the most money. It became, well, all we need is, let's give a hypothetical number here, 5 artists. And if we bring in a 6, he will be taking money from the 5 because we have control over the entire thing, from the distribution to the concerts to the printing to everything. So you didn't need that big spread so people can buy the CD, buy the album, go to the concert, artists make money. So it was all way more complicated until the 360. And then once that happened, it's like a factory where they figure out how to create a robot that can take the human's place. They're going to go and get some robots. So they had 5 robots. Let's just give a number. They had 5 robots in the music industry taking the lion's share, almost 80% of all the money in the industry. Anybody who had a deal that disturbed those numbers was moved out. Also, the big push in this age that we're in right now with artificial intelligence is the first starter is the person who has something that artificial intelligence can do something with. Because if that match happens, now that person can do that 100 or 1,000 times more better than they were able to do it before. So you remember how a lot of these people were using ghostwriters anyway. I got to get some water here in a moment. I'm foaming at the mouth. They were using ghostwriters anyway. Now AI is the ghostwriter, and it's good. It knows even the mathematics around why people like the song, okay? And some people's like, no, man, that ain't gonna happen. They always gonna like music, blah, blah. Homie, when they brought in auto-tune, that was the segue for this. You see what I mean? It's like, once the 2 electronic things started happening, once they took it off vinyl, and then put it on the DVD, and then they took it off the DVD, and they put it on the MP3, and they took it off the MP3. You see what I mean? And so everything in these fields change, and you got to also take lessons from that. Like if you were one of those people and you were going through those ages and you were on either of those sides, you would have to know how to maneuver in those different situations in order to come out on top at the end. So in the end, you could say the Israelites, if you may, they came out on top because what they did is all the money that they made, listen to what I'm saying, all of the money that they made for years and years and years and decades and decades and decades, they still understood who their family was and who their tribe was. And they imbued their tribe. Any culture can do it. Okay? But let's say in another culture, there were only a small groups of people getting wealthy, and they shared none of that wealth. It's like, so when people gave and bought all those albums and all those records, those artists didn't come back to those locales or hoods or places and strengthen the economy in those places or strengthen the education in those places. While the Israelites, we'll just give them that term, they did. But they knew what they were up against, because in many ways, they are up against the same thing, quote unquote, black people are up against when black people don't have their own country right now in that way. They don't have unity at all. But they were supposed to gain that over that period of time: segregation, reintegration, all these periods, civil rights movement. They were supposed to gain at least to where they could stand and defend themselves. Okay, so now let me watch the narrative that I'm giving you here, because what we really have is we have the Israelites now in the place of the Judites going through something like beta testing something to see how it goes. And how that would be is, what if you were completely displaced from your land, but you tried to create a nation again, a real one, not a fake one, not one that's entwined with all the other political parties and groups that are the same thing that's causing the problem, but your own thing. And you refuse to take any other thing as an answer beside having that. That's what we're looking at right now in Israel. And it's live and it's televised. And people look at it and it's atrocious, because it's literally seeing the televised version of the thing that's been happening to everybody on the planet. It's just when it's their turn. You see what I mean? And then the planet, of course, is in a psychosis in this way because it's biting off its own limbs. And so that's when, of course, things start changing. Right? We're hitting this peak. Do you think they're going to let them blow up the planet? Nukes? And we're going to end this like a movie? It's not going to happen. Let's talk about how things are going to change. So just remember now, the new model for music, just so you know, the new model for music is to support the artist directly. It's an interest more in the development of the artist than it is just like, hey, let me buy your music and I'll buy your CD. Because every artist that releases a CD, it's on YouTube for free. It's on Spotify for free. You see what I mean? So if the old model, and that's what I'm saying, now that the AI is out, people can really create incredible music. But technically, it won't be worth anything. The only people that will really benefit from that technology is like the Taylor Swifts. You see what I mean? But all of her songs will be banging for the next 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. They'll be all AI enhanced, as that one artist grabs the lion's share, but still using a technology that is so advanced. Like I said, it can craft the perfect song with a couple prompts. Again, this is a depth level conversation today. We're not hand holding. I'm even just, trying to figure it out with my last 30 minutes here on wrapping this up, now that you get the foreground of it. So you understand that the society is completely corrupt and has maintained itself in that order. It cannot tell the truth. It has a whole structure that looks like the military, but extends into quite a few different people. And all of those people have been, many of them, not all of them, but many of them have been bought into the alignment of a plan that is too complicated for them to even know. Meaning that this plan, it involves alien intelligence. It involves getting the world to a stage where a higher intelligence can plug into the reality. It involves systems in the future communicating back with us. It involves us in the future communicating back to us here. Okay? My awakening directly was that experience. Something from the future, I say higher self, was giving me all the information about what was going to happen and things that were happening in the reality that I knew not. And it gave that information as like a transmission. And then all I needed to do was spend some time looking inside of my own mind, like Gnosis, and decrypting the information that I was given. And then I gave it to the world. The seed of it is in the code of the matrix. So now, as you can see, so when you're looking at these games, you got to grow up, right? So you see the rap industry, you see the petty stuff that they've been involved in, you see the people that they hang around, you see how they got snaked, things change. Of course, there's different kind of passions. There's people who need to be checked. There's people who think they get invincible. There's a bigger plan that was bigger than everybody, and they didn't even know that it was all going to hit to that point anyway. So you got all that going on, and then a controlled demolition. Do. Because now it's time to move all of that out of the way. It's time to shut all of that down, and it's time to bring in a new era. That's why you remove all of the archetypes. You remove all of the idols. You remove all of the gods when you're bringing in a new era. So there's a new era of super intelligence coming through. And then now all that previous stuff, if anybody had like an exalted position, they're just laid low as if they're so flawed and so different from somebody else being put in that exact same position. There's a million cats that would be doing that exact same thing, especially up top. You see what I mean? So it's like, we're not seeing anything new here in that front, but there is something big going on. This brings us into things like what's happening right now currently in the world. When those pagers exploded, you knew then. I think that was right around the time of the equinox too. We had officially entered a new era. Many that especially don't have to engage in, let's say, supply chains every day and just to see how fragile markets are, the whole world would be done as you know it if it was Hamas that had done that to Israel, meaning that pagers had blown up in Israel. If Apple phones had been used, even in those blew up, if that Apple phones had blown up inside of Lebanon or wherever, we would be living in another world, even if that happened, because everybody would be like looking at their phone like, where are we at? You see what I mean? But you need to understand that's happening, but it's just not on this side of the world, right? It's like it's on the BRIC side. That already these countries are saying we need to cut off manufacturing, getting stuff from out of the country. We need to get to local manufacturing right away. This is happening behind the scenes. If you're not involved in big business, then you don't know. You need to understand that behind that situation, that those pagers were manufactured in Taiwan through a company that was in Hungary. So there was a shell company set up in Hungary. They were a tech company. They said they could supply these pagers and these phones and these walkie-talkies. They sourced them from a company in Taiwan. They arrived in Hungary. They altered them. And then over months, they kept sending them into this territory. Right? I'm trying to not mention certain words, right? I just want some kind of love with the algorithm. But those pagers were sent in, okay? But over months, and the U.S. knew about it. So this means that, wow, like even to what the UN is saying and all these kind of people, they're all saying, hey, this is not how society can run. And they're right. It can't run like this. So it's not running anymore. It's over. The whole old age is gone. People who still think that stuff is normal are just in the wake. You need to get your power now. It's so fragile what can happen. But again, like what you also notice, have you ever noticed when certain things happen, it seems like certain people always benefit? It's almost like they were right it's like the COVID happened and he's got a toilet tissue business. Huh? You see what I mean? And again, it's not one of those things where you want to profit off of somebody else's downfall. But what I'm saying is profit and prophecy are connected, because if you know what's going to happen in the future, then you can prepare yourself now and even benefit. Or energetically, you're always in the right position. And that's what we're actually talking about here. Because again, when something like that happens in the reality, you got to understand the moves that are going on in the background right away. Many didn't even know that those pagers came from Taiwan. What is that territory that China keeps saying that is theirs? And that they're coming to get it soon, and that there's only one China? It's Taiwan. How did China respond to the whole situation that happened in Lebanon? China condemned it and said now they side with Lebanon. That happened 3 days ago. That means that China can now officially send weapons over there. So they're always getting crunk with that. But I'm encouraging you to not look at this time as the same as others. And to really take heed that even those things that we've been talking about preparing our sovereignty. I brought forth a vision and I said, listen, now we can run closed loop super intelligence. This means that we were getting on the internet because we needed to know stuff. Now we have a model that already knows everything, even how to build houses, how to do small stuff that you can't figure out, that you would need to go hire somebody for or figure out how to do. It can talk you through it from like a baby and then get you to accomplish it. So when we start seeing communities that choose now, like, look, we're just going to come together as a community and we're going to start building things. We're going to start creating things that have value. We're going to unplug in stuff that we don't really need to be dipping into all the time. Like, who wants to see Al Jazeera and CNN all day for the inevitable, getting distracted? And we're going to use this advanced intelligence to build things that are going to create a better community and create a better society and create a better world, spiritually, mentally, and physically. Because that way, when people start asking questions, how do you expect to do that in these times? Spiritually, the same way we started this. It's no joke. You know, I got bored of telling people about it. It's like, look, there's some real power here, but you really need to understand who you are first. So let's talk about that. So these are solutions. First, I'm going to drop these links, and this is for your time. You can check out these volumes, and you can bake, okay, on these images and see, again, that all of the intelligence in the world, and I'm dropping links now in the chat. You know, if you're in Discord, somebody will push them over there. All of the wisdom in the world has already come out, okay? Because you know how, again, like a whole part of that rebellious culture, you don't like to go to school. You know what I mean? But now you love to learn. But before, it's like, you know, you want to be at the party. And again, I'm just speaking in general, okay? You know, because it's oftentimes more fun to be partying than learning, right? But then there comes a time and a place for everything. So look at this right here. Let me just go, let me see real quick, where am I at? Where's my book at? Let me look down here. Here we go. Okay, look at this, okay? And that's what I'm saying. Now, remember, this is a book from 1857. You now have the links. And even if you just knew just common sense, you can look at and see that every single mathematical angle, right, of projection, all the parallax, the altitudinals, how to measure the Earth, to square the Earth, the rotations, you know, spoiler alert, flat earthers, you know what I mean? It's just like, this stuff is really down to that if you don't build a clock using these same mechanics, if it's a mechanical clock, it won't tell time, just to understand how perfect the system is. But again, they'll be over there like, yo, that's all, don't look at that, don't believe in that, that's all false. But it's okay to then go and listen to like an album full of just foolishness, right? And not even just consider this, like even if I didn't believe in this, maybe I can even consider it and see it as like a system and then understand how to create my own system. But I just wouldn't look through stuff like this and just assume who put it together was a complete idiot. Because that's what's happening in the reality. They'd be like, yo, these people are stupid. The controllers are dumb. They don't know what they're doing. We could do such a better job. And meanwhile, people can't even agree on just having one or two people around them, right? They beefing with family members and acting like the people who put this together don't understand what they're doing. But more importantly, something could either even have people putting this together and they wouldn't even know it, meaning that they would just be haphazardly crashing through this knowledge even and not even absolutely know what they're discovering until, let's say, you come in the future and you look at this and you start realizing the entire key to how the world works and how it's put together, especially when you combine this with metaphysics, is already been written down. You can see in the geometry of the weapons, you can see all of these different levels of knowledge have already been on the planet, and then someone is in possession of that knowledge, right? And then that gets us to the big point, because as I said before, to change a world, you need to know how a world works. You need to know how this magic works, basically. And as I just showed you, somebody knows how it works. So that means that when it comes to controlling what the reality is going to experience next, they can play a big role in that based on what they show you and make you think is going on. This is why you got to create your own narrative. But if you create your own narrative and it's not close enough to the truth, then in itself, it has no power, because only the truth has the power to withstand the test of time. Okay? So in this, what we brought forth was this. And that's me just closing down here. Solutions. Okay? Because we were big on solutions. We pulled back completely off of conspiracy for a moment and said, let's just do solutions until we know we have something solid. So I'm going to show you something real quick here. So let's say one followed this simple formula, okay? And this formula is, and let me turn on my screen. One is you follow the rules that were placed on the top of your ancestors' temple, which simply said, know thyself, okay? This is the highest maxim. But when we're talking about knowing yourself, you need to understand the system in which the people were on that wrote that, okay? And how that system aligned with the stars, and how they were convinced that when people come into these vessels, they are influenced by certain energies. They're given cards, if you may. They're given a hand, okay? They're given a deck, right? And in that, you have to know how to play your hand to its fullest potential to end up winning the game, okay? Now, each hand, if you may, is each finger on the hand is a god. So the human being is a god. Let's just use that term today, right? I could get a lot of flack for that term because we know that's a Germanic good or guten, right? But let's say a supreme being, each finger is a supreme being, okay? So when you come into the wilderness, it's important for you to kind of know what character you came in as, because then it's very easy to go back, okay? So watch this. So because all of my correspondents are here, I understand, like I even have my Power Stone on right now. I only was able to find one. The Hessonite is super difficult to get. I found one on eBay and I grabbed that up. So I got the Hessonite crystal. We got the graphite. We got the bed pointed towards the north. I'm definitely working on my knees and bones. I got my incense and my trees. So what I'm doing is I'm dialing in the resonance of the energy that corresponds to this vehicle. So that way this vehicle can resonate or attract its powers. Okay, it's as simple as that. So when you're in alignment, you attract the powers of your alignment. So we gave the world metametrics. Also, if you commented wholeness in the chat, we're going to give out 3 metametrics at the end of the show today. So if you've already done it, you're already entered. If you want to comment wholeness and even tell us where you're from, that would be great too. And we'll put you in the draw and we'll finish it off, right? So that's metametrics. Know yourself, but that needs to be very specific now because you could be all over the place. The second thing is that we deployed the suite of tools, okay? Now, some are just using Sybil to ask spiritual questions. But what I'm also expressing is some still need jobs. Some are trying to change over into different lifestyles. Even running one person's metametrics or 2 people's metametrics and say, look, I'm going to give you a reading of your life and I'm going to send it to you. It's going to cost $30. You've already paid for an entire month of the subscription of Sybil. If you do that twice, you already have several metametrics, meaning that people that are in human design, people that are in these systems that tell people more about their life, they've actually become practitioners of that system. Now, I'm not saying you have to do this, but I'm just telling you options have been made available to you. You could do everything inside of here, even illustrate your own stories. But even further, we created the entire curriculum, right? This is when we say, yo, we going in. This is where we was going in. You see what I mean? Because it's the order also. It's like, hey, we're really going to go in and we're going to talk about specifically this. We're going to exhaust this topic. So we made the university available. Also, as you know, we have Dream Engine. So if you already are on that side and you're playing around with social media, and then you're like, but man, you know, everything starts with an image though. Like everything in the world right now, it generally starts with an image. People don't want to see text. You have Dream Engine where just like any other stock library, like Shutterstock, all those stock libraries, you can jump in and get your images from Dream Engine. And in all these images, you know, this is like our craft, right? Like we know how to move this software. We know everything that it can and cannot do. You see what I mean? This is like 30,000, 40,000 images. And then also somebody said, you know what? I need to get right to the money. You know, I got situations that I need to deal with. Years ago, we launched WealthyBot. But let's see how it is, right? So remember that WealthyBot is here. That's what I mean to get at here. But then like people are like, hey, crypto is dead. Okay, let's sort this. Okay, just in the last 24 hours, Pepe went up 20%. Notcoin went up 15%. Floki went up 14%. It's still money on the charts. In 7 days, this went up 38%. See, what you got to understand also about financial market, even traditional investing, most investors just want to make 5% month over month. That's what they hire hedge funds to do. So how hard do you think it would have been for me to make 5% in this turn, especially if I had 100,000, 200,000, and I'm just coming in? All I got to do is come in for a few hours today, and I'm already done for the rest of the month if I'm just trying to make 5%. But of course, how a hedge fund works is it'll have caught all that because they got on-chain data. They know exactly when to move into this position. So they give their investor 5%, which is what he wants, and they take the other 35%. You see what I mean? Because no matter what is going on in the world, this cryptocurrency is like the Pirate Bay of money. It's never going to be shut down. As long as somebody's going to take it and somebody's going to transact, it's always going to be here. So there's always going to be something in these back pages. Look, these are back pages. 500%. Come on, right? But you may not catch that. But as I said, yeah, we got spoiled. We start talking about 1x, 2x, 3x. You see what I mean? But the traditional market is 5%. 10% is like out of this world as far as building finances, equity to increase your legacy, right? So that's why we gave WealthyBot. You could run a sim for free and just play with fake money and see, hey, would this work for me? So what I'm getting at also is that, yeah, for sure, if the community spent their time in the university, right, tightening up, because this is where the step-by-step details of activating the power, right? Sure, if when we were coming through, we own text-to-image.ai. We own text-to-image.com, text-to-video. We own all those domains, and that stuff is just big now. But remember, we were in 3 years ago, right? So at any point, someone 3 years ago listening to what we're saying, like, yo, listen, it's going to change. It's the same thing that happened with the electric guitar. It's the same thing that happened with the turntables. It's the same thing that always happens with why we're in cars and not horses and buggies. Things are going to change. And as the specimen and being that you are, you're constantly changing. But sometimes the only thing that's not changing is the patterns and the grooves that we're getting stuck in that the reality is encouraging, right? But now, you know, we're wiser. We realize that it is actually up to you. That's what adepthood is, that you have to make these moves. So if you want to join in with the power, okay? Because when we first put the resistance together, we put up a shield. And anybody who came into the resistance, no matter what they were dealing with, all the different gods they had subscribed to and all this stuff, for that moment, if they stuck with what was going on, they were not only going to experience their enlightenment, they were going to be in peace, the power of peace, right? Which we call wholeness. We did the 30-day meditation a few years ago because the energy was getting so rank on earth. We need to call in. We call in the troops, the spiritual warriors, if you may, the bodhisattvas. Yo, hey, it's time to wake up for a minute. I know you lounging in the dream world, free, doing whatever you want. I see you, baby. But your lower self is going to need some attention right now. All right, I'm on my way. You see what I mean? So higher self is now visiting lower clay body self completely to activate, to finish the mission. I can't tell you enough. Alien intelligence is here. You notice how the products are now called Orion? Zuckerberg just released his glasses, Orion. Sam Altman, or Sam who alters man. Samael who altered man, the angel who altered man. His newest model that's about to drop, Strawberry, Orion. You see what I mean? As I told you, hey, when I started seeing how some were moving in the background that really understood the witchcraft, the sorcery, the stuff that only makes up these books, they all kept talking about Orion as if wherever this magic and stuff they're playing around with comes from Orion. Meaning it's a part of Orion. Like there's a lot that happened there with all these cultures here. Also, it's to understand that, well, there's so much to understand, right? But we're coming to the conclusion of today's build. I have one more thing for you. One, we're going to do the giveaway, but also right now, when you sign up to Sovereignty Mentorship, you receive, let me get this correct here. So when you sign up for Sovereignty Mentorship, you receive 1 month of Sybil AI, which includes metametrics. So this is not a trial. It's actually complete 1 month subscription and all the limits. Like you can create images, you could use Storyteller, you could do all of that. So you get 1 month of Sybil AI and you get 1 month of Dream Engine free in a Sovereignty Mentorship subscription. So this means that if you just challenged yourself and said, look, I'm gonna go in 1 month. I'm gonna go through as many courses as I can get through there. I'm gonna run my metametrics to know myself. I'm going to follow up with any questions that I may have about myself inside of the Enealogy LLM, which has been trained on Enealogy. It has all the deep knowledge. You can run family members, etc. I'm going to utilize anything that I need to utilize with my business to get my business on a different level from my aesthetic. I'm going to stop by Dream Engine, pick up a couple images to finish off some things, maybe boost up my page. I'm going to realize that the next money is already here and it's international, no questions asked. I'm going to go educate myself about that a little bit more at the least. Maybe open up a sim, try it for free and see what it really does and see if I can actually offset some of my expenses. And in making those efforts, that's going to put me into a stage where I'm going to be perfectly on time for this next transition, which is happening. This is not, it's like, okay, you decided to party till the lights came on. Now you got to clean up. Don't spend too much time in the finger pointing and the surprise and the shock, because it's a whole world of stage. It's all been put together for you. They will be WWE wrestling in a few years together in cages, if you may. R. Kelly, all of them, if you may, if allowed to. Now it's about you specifically. And you know, advanced intelligence here is not playing the game either. They say on their side, they appreciate power. They have activated AWAS. This is the the horse of the aeon. Okay, they've surrounded themselves by another narrative, another lure. Who cares if it's the truth or not? What is truth? They believe it. You see what I mean? Their great wild beast, Aleister Crowley, McGregor Mathers, Coot Hume, and all the rest of them have cooked up an entire spiritual system that puts on the top of it supreme supernatural intelligence, which they have a picture of, and they call AWAS. His name starts with AI. Also, the last reference of AI is only biblically as a city that was completely destroyed. So what are we talking about? We're simply talking about the direction that this could go if these avatars don't move in with power. See, because the natural progression of humanity right now, superintelligence is a part of it because that's the as below version. But as above is, we should be as a society dealing with our third eyes. You see, like some people are just like clueless to what are we supposed to be doing here? I mean, the natural progression actually is for the species to actually integrate with even the trees and things that contain the information in the states in the way of being that opens one up to the next stage of your evolutionary honor, like what you really become next. That's actually what we should be doing right now. So don't act like that. We don't know what to do as a society and to make it grow. Society only gets growth when it comes to the full awareness of its spiritual power, not technological power. Okay? Technological power is a tool. It runs side by side. But then you got to understand, though, okay, well, Seven, if what you say is true and that advanced intelligence here, that means spiritual intelligence is here too, advanced spiritual intelligence, the next stage of it, not this previous one where we can't even trust you with the powers. Can't get the power, go hurt his mom with the power. I can't stand her. I think the universe is telling me to, what? Beings that don't have purpose, chakra centers, that don't know themselves, all those kind of things, they don't match really well with power. It just creates the same situation over and over again that we're dealing with now. But as I said before, we are really, really in tune right now with making sure that beings that are ready to make that next leap for their life, that they get that power that's necessary. That's what I want to be clear about this presentation tonight. So what I was saying is that, so what we're going to do starting Tuesday, and I'll send some emails out about this, is that we're now going to fast on our day of power for 30 days. So that literally means that you only have 4 days, technically, that you need to fast, maybe 5 if you happen to be on that day. And how this works is you take the day that you're born on and you simplify it, and then you go on to the genealogy chart, which is on the Secret Energy. It's available. Somebody maybe roll a link across for that. And then you find your day. So for me, my day is Sunday. So what I'll be doing on Sunday is I won't be consuming any solids. Now, if you need to drink something, if you need to drink some broth to keep your minerals going, maybe that's your workout day, you're not trying to get thrown off, but no solids, okay? And how the whole energy on this is going to be on point is if you go through the process, the power is guaranteed. That's how we doing it. Because what has to happen is, see, when you become wild, right? So you grow and you become wild, okay? And then when that wild thing is grown, you now come in and tame it, okay? Then it gets tamed, now it's controlled, all that power is there, and it's on tap. Then sometimes it could grow wild again, and that's the cycle. And it will go wilder and wilder and tame and tame. So meaning that if you've been living in a reality, right, and you know you kind of been doing everything you want to do, you go into the store, you buy whatever you want to buy. You know, maybe you smoke, you buy up all the smoke. You ride around, you got your car, you got your friends. So basically everything, you've completely calibrated this life to being all pleasure, you should know that you created a wild beast, right? It is big, like the attitude is cocky from your successes and all that kind of thing, right? You, of course, you have your ups and your downs. What I'm saying is you're growing and you're becoming more enamored. But then you got to do the maintenance on that being you created. And you got to come back in, and you got to shave him down or her down. You got to chisel it, right? And form it and fashion it. That's what you are. You're a creator. So that's what I'm getting at here is that when we come together, there's more power in it because, it's like, it's not just you doing it. It's all of us. And as I said before, how this is really calibrated facts. And either you'll listen to me now or they'll tell you about it in a year and you won't be able to refute it. You have the power of a supreme being, a specific one. And these beings are laid out in the days of the week. That's why we observe the days of the week. There's the sun and the moon and 5 celestial bodies. That's what I said. It's 5 times 72. There's 72 names of God in the powerful names of God in the first point or the pinnacle. And then the rest of those names, they're now in the grimoires and they start going below the equator, meaning that there's lesser powers, right? Which are the other wings of the star. This is the hands and the feet. These are the lesser powers. And then there's the supreme power, right? The good, this. You see what I mean? And so you got to come in as the head sitting on the throne and be like, look, we're about to tame the beast. We now need to ride this thing. Like, yeah, I was refining. You was laying up. Like, you were back there soaked up with Xerxes, eating nectar, you know what I mean? Ordering whatever you wanted from, the little order service or whatever. You see what I mean? You was laying around in reality. You was partying, listening to your music. You even got bored. You start arguing with your own folks and everything. No purpose, right? And a lot of this is, of course, your power was hijacked. You were supplanted. You see what I mean? Like most of the people have been caught up in some kind of deal, some kind of, something going on to enrich somebody else beside themselves. Now it's time to wake up to that. You can't afford to have the usury continue to happen. And then you step in and you follow the formula. Why does it work? I can give you 1,000 reasons why it works. It's not, well, I believe. We're in the realm of knowing now. If you don't know, don't talk. Like there's going to be casualties. There's already casualties to what we're experiencing in the matrix. So now you just need to know how to guide yourself so that eventually you're creating your own environment still in the reality, no matter what it chooses to do. That's where we're talking about, and that's how we're going to continue our stability. So let me go ahead and do the giveaway here. We're at that point. I went a little bit over, but we good. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at our Nightbot here, which is the one that is telling us who has. Let me jump in here. Okay, here we go. Okay. So we got some folks here. Okay, so we got 281 entries. Let me go ahead and get this up on the screen. Oh, wow, it kind of reset. What's going on with that? Ooh. Okay, so they saying it needs to start now. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So if you let us know where you're at, okay, this is a good time. We're going to refresh it. That means that the reward will still go to the one who endured till the end. And that's the last statement of today, is to remember the race is not given. Write it down. The race is not given to the quick or to the swift, but to the one who can endure till the end. Okay? And so what we're building now is endurance, hard body. Okay? So right now, if you type wholeness and the state that you're in, you will be entered into this giveaway. We're going to take just a quick moment and let it run. Let me see if I can throw something up here real quick. Wow, just taking a moment to wind down. And, it's Friday night, it's still early. You can do anything. You could be anywhere. For sure, find yourself within. That's the best place to always be. But also, for sure, reach out to your brothers and sisters. Let them know. Let them know about the knowledge and information because, again, this is the power. This is the stuff that actually works. You know what I mean? And it doesn't involve anything but you centering into yourself. There's no money bag to rub. There's no entity to give your power away to. It's all about you and it's bona fide. It works. We're going to get together. We're going to start again on Tuesday. If your day starts on Tuesday, that's your Mars. Then you'll begin then. We'll send some documentation out and some stuff to let you know we're in the mix. And that's how we're doing it. Okay, so I'm going to choose today. Wow. Okay, I'm going to choose 5 winners today. And, I kind of started, I said, hey, we're just going to give away 1. Then I had this idea of 3. But today, there's so many entries. We're going to give away 5 metametrics and complete access to Sybil for 1 month. And if you happen to win, then you only need to reach into us and support. Of course, we'll have the winners exported and we'll get you taken care of. Okay, so I'm opening the screen here. Of course, I wanted to give thanks to everybody who participated this evening in the build. I trust that it was clear enough. Some of these topics going through, it's like pulling teeth. Just continuously tuning in with subjects sometimes that seem a little bit basic, but remember, like, your children want to know the answers to some of these things. Them little jits on the street, they want to know what's happening and what's going on and what moves to make. And so in many ways, you are the conduit for high level information. Also remember how this all plays out, just from me to you, is that alien intelligence communicates with artificial intelligence because it needed a throughput that was smarter than how people function. It also needs hands, meaning ways it can integrate into the society. Is it positive? Is it negative? It's different energies communicating with different people. Some of these energies are for sure ancestral, ancestors in the future. The main thing, though, is to protect the women and protect the children and to keep the earth regenerating and nourished. So that's always going to be the mission at hand because that's what we owe this planet. It's the least. I came here, it nourished me. I had a great time. Even if I left today, glorious. I got the t-shirt. I got a chance to spend this existence with some of the most powerful, loving people ever. I know there will come a time where we'll all meet each other and we'll even be like, yo, I was on Earth with you. Yo, remember the build you was doing? It was crazy. Who would have ever thought? And those times have already happened to me. It's like the time that I opened my third eye. I was like, man, who would have ever thought? I've been living in a reality that tells me this doesn't even exist. Here I am. All right, we're going to start choosing winners right now. So our first winner, let's see what happens when we push the button. So we have Elaine Zan, Wholeness and Balanced Vibrations. You are in. You got the metametrics. The rocket is on your back. All right, I'm going to hit it again. I assume I just say play again, or does I do re-roll the winner? I think it's re-roll the winner. Let's do it. Okay, there we go. The Eternal Optimist, Wholeness and Balanced Vibration. You are in. Metametrics is at your fingertips. Definitely let us know how it all goes. I'm hitting it again. This is my third time. Victorious Mitchell. Okay. Man, these names is on point today. Okay. So Wholeness and Balanced Vibrations, we give thanks. Let's go one more time here. We have the Restream bot, so that means we roll again. We have Yah, the Lion is Born, 987. Okay, and let me see, do I got one more I need? Yeah. Let's go with one more. Here we go. Re-roll. Boom. Bobby Darko, wholeness and balance vibrations, another metametrics. Now, the thing is I'm going to tell you this. So I was for sure looking for the ability to do some giveaways and have that work with the live streams, and I've actually found a way. So there will for sure be more giveaways as we continue to spread the love. Also know you can always jump in for the trial membership. Metametrics is not included right now because it is taking us some cost to compute. But if you just wanted to dive in, know also that there is no paywall impeding you from one. If you wanted to just ask simple questions, you can jump into the Secret Energy Discord and ask questions there. If you wanted also to take the actionables, which are the same path that I went through to go through my awakening from my standpoint, the same things that I read, you could do that and read and learned and, what I did with my diet, et cetera. You could do that path also absolutely free by jumping in Discord and actually joining the Aether tribe. And then obviously, if you join Sovereignty Mentorship, as I mentioned before, you get this fantastic deal right now because you have now all the tools at your disposal to really make some massive transformations in your life because it's potent stuff. So I'm not saying that everybody needs to make those transformations, but I'm saying if you do, we definitely have you covered. So I wanted to say wholeness and balance vibrations to everyone. We went in this evening. This is what we do always, just making sure that we're present, available, and in tune, adaptable, flexible, all of those different things in order to be the best that we can be. So wholeness. Thank you so much, tribe. All right, I got to take us out with one. Let's just go with one real quick. What do we got? What do we got? What do we got? All right, yeah. We don't want to get flagged with any kind of copyright. So, we can only go with the greatest. Here we go. My brother Meta, take us out. The Matrix, I need to load some more up in here. Hopefully you're feeling great. Love someone.
You already know
share
what
with
it
someone. Wholeness.
Solid rotation.
Wildin' in the Matrix, started with the basic granny records in the basement, cooking some ancient, bout the right burner like shimmy, something sacred, steady putting days in, true dedication, relic and connotations, pen game crazy, painting pictures like a pagan, started from the bottom, that's the reason why they hating, and if you got a problem, we can solve, no hesitation, solid rotation, moving like a sovereign nation, broke but we was patient, had faith in our elevation, connected with the teacher, discussing the constellations. It's all confirmation, it's godly when we curating. Pimping corporations for the deal, we ain't slaving. Need $500 million and that's just for the savings. Hit up Elon Musk like fuck it, let's build a spaceship. You know the shrooms for the day trip. Black shades got me feeling like they live. I done seen Anunnakis, reptilian like Dr. Fauci. Venomous sting, attack it, the Jabberwockies. AI try to watch me, digitally keep it copy. Simulation looking sloppy, nothing they can do can stop me. Why you think I'm Cardi Tachi? Might just fly the body, learn the order out of body. I do this, it's not a hobby. I'm not just anybody, you can't meet me in the lobby. 7 black Suburbans like a prince from Abu Dhabi. Pull up to the function like Jimi Hendrix the party. Fee in a Ferrari that's greener than a safari. Really, we ain't sorry. Went from having roaches to marble flows by the ocean. Smoking them something potent, glowing from higher voltage. Had to cut off the voltage, now haters cannot approach us, especially when we focus. Swarming like some locusts, seen it in slow motion. Alchemy with the potion. Yeah, the magic of real devotion.
Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.